Welcome to another edition of CHP Talks. We are here today with special guest David Cooke, and we're going to be talking about some current issues that we're facing in the political climate, Bill C6, Bill C7, and also be talking about his book. So Rod, why don't you introduce David properly here?
Sure. David Cooke was born and raised in Brampton, Ontario. He graduated from Queen's University, worked as an internet programmer for several years. And during this time, God led David out of the religion of atheism with the help of a book called The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. David went on to study the Bible at Toronto Baptist Seminary, where he graduated with a Master's of Divinity. He served in pastoral ministry in several churches in Ontario and briefly as a missionary teacher in Honduras. In 2018, David took on the role of Executive Director of CitizenGO Canada, an organization defending Christian pro-life and pro-family values. And over the last year, David has served with Campaign Life Coalition as National Campaigns Manager, focused on various life, family, and faith initiatives. David recently completed his first book, titled 4 Pillars, Building the Church in an Age of Decline. David is married to Heather, his wife of 18 years. They reside in Woodstock, Ontario, together with their 2 children. David, it's tremendous to have you with us here today. We've had the pleasure of meeting a couple of times and followed your work. And so thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Rod and Peter, for having me. It's really great to talk to you again here.
Yeah, the origins of this conversation in some ways go directly back to a rally in Ottawa. And David, you organized that with Campaign Life against Bill C6. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that for starters and what you're doing on that file now?
Yeah, we had that rally back in December. I led that with Campaign Life Coalition, but I also want to mention we had a lot of other groups across Canada who were supportive of that, including Christian Heritage Party. And C6, of course, is the so-called conversion therapy ban. It purports to protect the rights of LGBT self-identified people, but in reality, this supposed ban is going to be more of a I prefer to say a conversion ban, because it is basically criminalizing and stigmatizing the Christian view of sexuality and gender, and the need as Christians that we talk about for all people to repent and be converted, to turn from their sinful ways in areas of sexuality and also in areas of gender expression, and to turn to Christ and follow his pattern and his ways as presented in Scripture. So this bill C6 is very insidious and is very dangerous in terms of our freedom of religion, freedom of speech. So we wanted to bring out those aspects of what this bill is about at the rally in Ottawa. So we led that rally, and it was a great event, had a lot of support. Had about, I think, almost around 100 people present, which was pretty remarkable considering it was in the middle of all the coronavirus regulations, and it was a miserable day, as you will attest, I'm sure, Peter, because you were there.
Yeah, it was.
I could tell even from watching the video, you were all under umbrellas trying to hold on to wet pieces of paper and so on. So more power to you for doing that. And one of the things that I got out of it from listening to the presentations there, and of course we've discussed it before, it's not like Christians trying to impose something on people who are in an alternate lifestyle, but people themselves who want to escape from sort of the bondage of living a lifestyle that is not the natural lifestyle designed by God. They're wanting help to get out, and this could possibly make it illegal for a pastor, a counselor, or a parent to even logically assist, give counseling to a young person or any person who is wanting to leave that lifestyle.
Yeah, it certainly could, and it certainly will. One of our speakers, just a wonderful gentleman by the name of Keith Alexander, he told the story of his conversion, and it was a wonderful, moving story of how, as a young person, he had been molested, and he grew up and entered into a life of drug use, homosexuality, depression, and he was delivered from that. God saved him out of that, and he is very happy. He's very pleased to be now a Christian serving the Lord, and um, this bill will basically say that you can't do what he did, which is to find freedom and to find Christ. So he put a human face on it, and there are many other testimonies, of course, of people who have been delivered out of that lifestyle, and who are very happy, and who are very glad to be serving Christ now. And so that is one issue, and there are these very stiff penalties. I mean, just simply what they call offering conversion therapy. I mean, but what that really means in the wording of the bill is simply presenting the biblical view of human sexuality, and helping someone who is struggling with an unwanted same-sex attraction, or helping someone who's struggling with gender dysphoria and who doesn't want to have those confused feelings about their gender, to even help someone through that, to talk them through. It risks up to 2 years in jail.
Wow.
That is the penalty, and for a parent, even a parent, to help his child talk through those issues. If the parent is actually trying to say, well, there is a better way, and it is the biblical way, there's a penalty of up to 5 years in jail. This is unbelievable. It's kind of like a bill that tries to compel speech, compel belief.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where like even people that are are not at all concerned about the morality of any of these lifestyles should be concerned about the freedom aspect, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion. And that's pretty shocking that not enough members of parliament at this point are even concerned about that. And I guess that's where it's at right now, right? Is talking to individual members of parliament.
That's right. When we had the rally, the bill was being discussed at the Justice Committee level. It had gone through second reading. Now the Justice Committee, they just went through it very quickly, and they made a decision on it even before they received all of the written submissions that were presented. Campaign Life Coalition actually presented a written brief from a constitutional lawyer, Carol Cross, and that brief it goes into great detail in terms of all the legal case history, all the constitutional issues. And we brought this. We spent quite a lot of money to get this brief put together, and we brought that to the committee. But the committee made their decision before the brief was even presented. So they weren't even informed by that. In fact, there are many briefs presented that they didn't even look at, and many witnesses which we were bringing forth that they refused to hear. And then they made their decision, and they not only said, okay, well, the bill is fine, we're going to send it off with our blessing to receive third reading. No, they actually decided they want to make the bill more more radical. They actually made it stronger they put in some amendments that would make it harsher for those who hold to the traditional or Christian perspective on sexuality and gender. And now it's going to third reading the end of this month. We expect it to go. And so our plan of attack now is to really be reaching out to MPs and just bombarding them with our concerns on this issue.
So that's probably an action point for everyone listening and watching here today, is to talk to your member of parliament and
Right.
see if some will have some common sense and take a second look at this.
Exactly. And you know, you can phone your MP, you can email your MP, and if you would like even some more help on what to say at Campaign Life Coalition, our website, you can go to our action alert page, and we have some pre-scripted messages that you can use if you want. You know, if you're not sure how you can talk to your MP, we've got some help for you there.
Okay, good. The other question that we get asked about quite a bit is Bill C7 and where it's at and what's happening with it.
Right. Yeah. C7, of course, is the expansion of the Trudeau government's euthanasia program. As I'm sure people know, euthanasia was pushed into our country's laws by the Supreme Court, but it was also kind of agreed to by the Trudeau government, who just kind of went along with the court ruling back in 2016, I believe, which is not that long ago. And so they, basically made euthanasia, which is medical murder. You know, let's not use any euphemisms here. This is doctors actively killing their patients. So they made that legal in certain situations, certain circumstances. There were some criteria which were not that great in my mind, but they had some. And then there was this Quebec court ruling, just a single judge in Quebec said that the one criteria, that death must be imminent or reasonably foreseeable, whatever that means. Even that was ruled by one judge in Quebec as inappropriate, unconstitutional. And the Trudeau government, instead of appealing that, taking it up to the Supreme Court and getting their thoughts on it and trying to defend the actual law that they had put in place, they just decided, we're just going to accept that Quebec judge's ruling. That one judge is going to dictate to the whole country, all 38 million of us. And so we're going to just change the law and basically say that euthanasia can take place on people who aren't dying. So yeah, if you're disabled, you have a disability, and you're just maybe feeling depressed because of your disability, you feel you're a burden on society, your disability is bothersome to you, well, you can qualify under this C7. It's unbelievable.
It's so ironic that there's always been a concern, and a legitimate concern, which we share, about suicides and people, ending up taking their lives in this country, young people and people on drugs and whatever that, have run out of hope and think that they should just end it all. And here the government now is promoting the premature ending of life for even something as common as depression. And we all know that, that you have good days and bad days, but now they've shortened or eliminated almost the waiting period for those that see their end of life coming. And for others, they're opening the door that people, if they want to end it all, and the government will help them do it. It's just really crazy.
It is. It's I don't know what's happened to my country. I mean, I grew up here. I was born in Brampton, and it was a different world, back then, 40 odd years ago. But what is happening now? it is just escalating and at such a rapid pace. But one good thing about our fight against C7 is we have seen the disability rights community get on board. It's not just the Christian voice in the wilderness, but actually, secular disability rights groups are fighting this. They realize this is going to, it is not a matter of giving people a right. It is a matter of demeaning people, making the disability community appear less valuable, and really saying that putting a kind of pressure on that community to justify your existence now, because really, if you're a burden on society and you're suffering, maybe you should just end it all. And they realize this is a bad idea. So it's good to see that we're getting a lot of support. But this bill, it was pushed through just over the Christmas season. It's already gone through third reading, and it's over in the Senate now. During a pandemic, when we can't lobby effectively, it's hard to do rallies, it's hard to get people working on these issues. The Trudeau government decided they're going to push this through. It went through their Justice Committee in a few weeks, and third reading and done. And now we have to go to our senators and try and reach out to them and get them to hopefully exercise some sober second thought on this, which they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Yeah. Well said. We're in a pandemic and pushing for more medical murder, as you said. And this is completely schizophrenic in terms of our message to ourselves, I guess, as Canadians. What's important? Saving life on the one hand in a pandemic, trying to do everything we can, and on the other hand, rushing legislation so you can end your life more quickly. This is completely bizarre.
It is true. And like Rod was saying, how can we as a society on the one hand say we want to stop suicide? We don't want people to be killing themselves. We want to promote mental health, and we want to recognize the dignity of people's lives and their value. And yet on the other hand, we want to make it as easy as possible for people to go to a doctor, any doctor anywhere, and receive a lethal injection and be killed. And and even the same day, C7 does allow same day death for those who are apparently, is suffering some chronic illness. So it's unbelievable, the hypocrisy of our leaders in this area.
One can't help noticing that, or thinking that medical costs is part of the deal. In other words, it may be a matter of money, easier to bump off old people who are the ones who require more medical attention generally. Just bump them off, and it's terrible, a terrible way of looking at things. But some people in government are that pragmatic that they want to save costs on healthcare. Meanwhile, they're throwing money away hand over fist in other directions. So it's very, very alarming.
Mm-hmm. You hate to think that people are just thinking about money, but with all the high amount of spending that the Trudeau government is doing right now, the huge amount of debt, and I believe he's going to be looking for money everywhere he can find it. And this is undoubtedly, healthcare costs are very high, and if you inject someone with a lethal injection, they die. That's a lot, saves a lot of money versus, maybe months or years in hospice or hospital or whatever it may be. So,
Completely ignoring the value of that person to their family, to their grandchildren, the inspiration that they may be to someone else. And it just throws all that out, saying this person's life does, because they're not on on the front line or on the assembly line, putting together widgets and creating a product that their life doesn't have value to our country, which is completely a terrible way of looking at it and completely erroneous.
Yeah. There's no dignity in dying. I mean, death is the enemy. Okay, we are fighting death. Christ died to conquer death. We don't look at it as a friend, and we certainly don't see dignity in basically letting people give into their feelings of depression and worthlessness. We don't see any dignity in devaluing people. We want to uphold their dignity by valuing their life and encouraging their fight and encouraging their self-worth, which is only through promoting good health care and affirming their life and their worth in every way we can.
Yes. Well, maybe that's a good segue for you to talk about the book that you've just written. And so it's called 4 Pillars, Building the Church in an Age of Decline. And you gave it to me, and I thank you for it. And I've been reading it. I haven't completed it yet, but yes. What made you want to write it? What made it more important for you to write it than for you to have not written it?
Well, we have a little bit more time during this pandemic season, so that's certainly part of it. But I really felt compelled to write this book for a number of reasons. For one, what we're seeing in terms of the church and the pressure on the church, especially in this pandemic time, pressure from the government to conform to various regulations, which some feel are unbiblical. The pressure to, basically from the culture, pressure to change, to go with the flow in terms of the thinking of the day, the spirit of the age, whether it be in terms of sexuality and gender theory and other things like that, euthanasia. There's a lot of pressure on the church today, and especially at this moment in time, enormous pressure. But not only did I feel compelled because of that, but also for a more personal reason. There are 3 churches, local churches, that are very dear to my heart, that actually closed down over the last 2 years. My own home church back in Walkerton, which is where I lived for many years, where my parents still live. My wife's parents are also in that area, and my home church there shut down just very, very recently, I guess just over a year ago. And then the church where my wife and I got married in Hanover shut down. And the church where I pastored in Paisley, just north of Walkerton, shut down last year as well. And all these churches that I'm very familiar with, I know the people, and they're very dear to my heart, they just all closed. And I'm like thinking, what's going on? Churches are struggling, they're shrinking, they're shutting down. This coronavirus is just, and the regulations resulting from it are putting so many pressures on the churches. Churches aren't holding meetings now. There's no Bible study. There's no fellowship. What are Christians to make of this? What are we supposed to do? So I guess all this happening at this moment in time just made me feel I needed to study the issue, look into it, and also see what the Bible has to say, and try to address it from my perspective. So that's basically what I tried to do in this book.
Yeah. Well, I'm really struck immediately by the title. It sort of gives a feeling of hope in terms of building the church, but it doesn't sugarcoat the issue as you see it either, in an age of decline, which is the other part of that subtitle. And that's where I think there's so much of a tendency among Christians. Look at the brighter side, look at the brighter side. Yeah, but let's be honest too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And one of the things I do in this book is I take the reader back to the early church. We go back and we look at the New Testament church, where the New Testament church was born, and how it took off and grew. In only 300 years, this church, which was basically a really tiny minority community inside the Jewish minority community, this little church which was harassed and persecuted, and believers were martyred, and in 300 years it took over the Roman Empire. What happened, and what's going on? And I'm sure in those early days, the believers were feeling the heat, right? There are probably many believers who are thinking, well, what's happening here? This doesn't look very good. Maybe Christ will come again really soon, and he'll just kind of solve all the problems. But the church, God had a plan for his church, and one of the verses I like to mention is when Jesus says, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And that is a promise. That is not maybe so, hope so. That's like a promise. And he did that. And I believe he is still doing it today. And we need to look at his plan. What is his plan for his church? What is he doing? How is he building it? What tools and instruments is he using? And how can we kind of get out of the way and get with the program? So that's really what I want to do in this book.
Yeah. Well, that's it's important, and I think this this pandemic has shown the church what was already there. Those who were weak, those who were perhaps it's brought out the extremes in so many people, and that's not good. But it does often reveal the truth. It sort of separates the wheat from the chaff, if you will.
It's a bit of a sifting process I think we're going through right now, because many Christians they're not sure how to respond to our present situation, whether it be just general decline or now pressures from the government, or pressures from the culture. But now we're being forced to really think about these issues and really evaluate, well, what should we do as a church? How should we respond? How should we think about this? I know many churches are not meeting right now, and the people are at home, and how is that a good thing or a bad thing? What can we do as a church? My own church, is kind of in an underground state right now. We are meeting, and we are facing the possibility that there could be, fines or possible imprisonment because we're meeting. And so, but we have to think about these issues biblically, and also from the perspective of what is helpful for our people and for the world, reaching the world for Christ. So there's a lot to think about, and I hope my book can help people think through it. I don't give answers to what do we do in terms of the coronavirus. I don't want to give any pat answers, but I do want to present what I believe Christ's plans for the church are, for strengthening it, supporting it, upholding it, growing it, and keeping the doorway open so that new people can come on in. And of course, that's why I have this title, 4 Pillars, which, without giving it away, it's all based on Acts chapter 2, verse 42, where we really see 4 pillars of the church set out there for us.
Yes. Yeah, I think that relationship of church and state is something that we've often thought about in CHP, because it gets asked to us often in the form of an accusation that we're trying to mix those two, but. And so we've, many CHP candidates and members have thought about this, sometimes some of them for many years, and it's been sort of clear in their mind in terms of the line of jurisdiction, difference between those spheres of governance and of authority and responsibility. But it seems as though many Christians in the pew, many pastors evidently didn't all agree on what those lines were, and that and this pandemic has caused us to have to really reevaluate. And I don't know if you want to mention, go into that at all, but to me, it seems like there was no underlying consensus, and the pandemic just revealed that.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we do see that. We see some remarkable divisions now that are, I guess, were under the surface, but I guess they needed to be revealed, where we need to understand what is our relationship with the state, and where do we draw the line in terms of respect for our governing authorities and the powers that be, and honoring them, honoring the king as we ought to do, but also our faithfulness to Christ, and recognizing him as King of Kings, and what do we do as the local church when the rubber meets the road in certain particular situations. So it may not be that there is one easy fix for this. It may be that in each situation we have to evaluate it, like we're in now. It might be church by church, but we need to think through it for sure.
What I'm seeing across the country and around the world, really, there's different streams of information, and people make their decisions based on what they hear and see, and they're getting a pretty, in a way, a unified commentary from the mass media.
Right.
But just because it's unified doesn't mean it's full and correct, and so then you have from the prime minister on down, the premiers, local cities even establishing guidelines and bylaws and regulations and enforcing them at different levels. So the whole society is basically fractured. And then, of course, within the church, there are also, people within an individual church might be listening to different sources of information, so drawing different conclusions. It's quite troubling that our society seems to be really grasping for a response to this. Of course, the pandemic, the coronavirus itself, is a terrible thing. We don't want it. We wish it wasn't there, but the response by world governments, including our own, has maybe been out of hand in terms of how both the nature of the coronavirus and the types of things that could be done to limit its spread or its impact on lives.
Exactly. It's true. People, even in well, I know people in various congregations, and I've talked to them, and the divide is just unbelievable. And a lot of it is depending on who you're listening to, what you believe, and what voices you believe, and what is really needed is some strong leadership from our churches, our pastors, some unified leadership. We need some people who are willing to be courageous, to be a Daniel, dare to be a Daniel, that old song, I love it. And who can just be able to sort some of this through and help people sort it through. And I know without that leadership, people are going in all kinds of different directions, and it's just creating more disunity in the church.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the leadership that you have provided just by writing this book, and the leadership you're taking with Campaign Life Coalition. And I don't know if you want to just maybe recap in conclusion a couple things that people, that listeners and viewers could do on Bill C6 and Bill C7, and where they can get your book.
Sure, I'd be glad. Please do contact your member of parliament on C6, the conversion ban. We want to see that stopped, and it can still be stopped at that level. In fact, during the Justice Committee hearings, I was watching some of the Liberal MPs who were asking questions, and I believe some of those Liberal MPs are also somewhat concerned about this, but perhaps are feeling a little bit pressured. So if your local MP, whether he's Liberal, NDP, Conservative, Bloc, whatever, if you reach out to him or her with your concerns, your sincere issues with this bill, I think we could see it defeated. It's possible. So I would encourage you to do that. And then in terms of Bill C7, the euthanasia program expansion, we want to reach out to the senators. So we do have some tools on our Campaign Life Coalition website, campaignlifecoalition.com. If you go there and there's a little tab that says Take Action, and then under that Action Alert emails, under there you'll find some pre-scripted messages that will help you, and also it will connect you to your own MP and to a senator that you can reach out to. So we have those tools available. It's very easy. It's not a lot of pressure on you to do that. It's not very stressful. It's pretty simple. And when you contact your MP or the senator, they're usually quite cordial and happy to hear from people, even who oppose what they think. So I'd encourage you to do that at our Campaign Life Coalition website. And then if you're interested in my book, Four Pillars, Building the Church in an Age of Decline, you can get it on Amazon. And you can also go to the website baptisthouse.org, and you can order it from there as well.
Well, thanks again. And that's hopefully that's a few action items, and I hope everyone will consider them and do what we can in our own way to be leaders and take leadership on these important issues that our country is facing. So, Rod, do you have anything that you want to say in closing?
Well, just want to say thank you, David, for what you're doing. We always appreciated the work of the Campaign Life Coalition and the work that you were doing even with CitizenGO before you joined their organization. But we really appreciate, we lean on each other, and keep up your good work. God is still on the throne in spite of what our society says, and it's important that we continue to speak on his behalf for the principles that this country was founded on. So thank you, David.
Well, thank you so much, Rod and Peter. I just really appreciate your work, and just having that Christian voice in the political realm is so vital, so necessary. I just hope that you guys keep doing what you're doing and building, and we know that Christ's kingdom will prevail, and nothing, the gates of hell cannot overcome it. We know who's going to win in the end, and we just want to see that kingdom extended and expanded in more and more ways.
Well, thank you for the encouragement and for your time today. Thank you, all of our listeners and viewers. We wish you God's blessings in 2021, and we hope you'll join us again for another edition of CHP Talks.
Thank you.